X-Pac 12360. Featuring weekly news, insider commentary, and interviews with superstars, past and present from the world of pro wrestling.
A new day is dawning for DX.
And now, your host, Sean X-Pac Waltman.
Who has slayed villains from WCW, ECW, Impact Wrestling, and WWE, where he remains the longest reigning cruiserweight champion. He appeared in the ring at age 13, and outside of it has been a stuntman for David Arquette and jammed with Jericho in a Fozzy video. I'm just saying, the Hurricane Shane Helms is here with us today. Hey, Shane.
All right. Yeah.
Hey, how you guys doing? It's a pretty good intro there.
Oh, good. I'm glad I'm good.
Shane,
It's going to be hard to top the poem you did for Lanny Poplar, though.
That is true.
I was going to ask you, Shane, if you heard that one.
Yeah, I did. I was very impressed.
Hey, man, I got to thank you for coming on, by the way. I have to tell you right off the bat, man, you know, it means a world to me that you actually take the time. We only have so much time, you know. We only have so much time. And the fact that you take some of it to watch the show is really cool. Appreciate it, man.
Oh, no problem, man. Thank you guys for putting out a good product. You know, I listen to quite a few, and they're not just your podcast, but I listen to quite a few podcasts. And it's kind of hard to do, you know, to keep them entertaining on a consistent basis. You know, I did the podcast thing back in 2010. I think me and Cole Cabana were the only ones doing it at that time. And honestly, I couldn't handle the scheduling. Because I was still working a lot back then, and just all the different, you know, things I had going on. I couldn't keep it up. I had to eventually tap out.
Yeah.
When Steve Austin called me and asked me for advice on how to do one.
Oh, wow.
That's actually when I kind of tapped out. So I was like, yeah, I'm not going to compete with that.
All right. I remember, Shane. I remember when you were doing those, and I would watch some of them, and you're right. This keeping a schedule, a proper schedule, and sticking to it. Wow, what a commitment, man. I mean, I've been on most of these weeks, I've been flying in and out like coast to coast just to come in and do these, just to make sure that we stay on a consistent schedule so the people, you know, it's just like with the wrestling show on TV. You know, if you start skipping around days and that you put the show out, you know, people that, you know, their habits get fucked with. So it's just not a good thing.
People like a routine. They like a routine thing.
Yeah. So cool. Hey, Shane, when you remember when Matt and Jeff and like Joey Abs and those guys, what was his name? Jason Arndt?
Yeah, Jason Arndt was Joey Abs.
Right. When those guys first started coming to WWF TV, you know, and Scott and I worked with Jeff and things like that. You remember that period of time?
Yeah.
Were you
right before I met Matt and Jeff?
That's what I was getting at. I was going to say, were you with those guys yet? And was Omega a thing yet?
No, it wasn't quite a thing yet. I actually got into business a couple years before them, and they were doing the backyard trampoline thing. I never had the honor or luxury of being in the Trampoline Wrestling Federation. I think I would have done well, but you know.
It's the most dangerous type of wrestling you can do on a trampoline. Honestly, I'm like half kidding and 100% serious at the same time. People get their fucking necks broke on those things. Anyways, go ahead. I'm sorry.
Yeah, they bounce right off the trampoline on the ground, which isn't quite as forgiving as the trampoline was. But yeah, I think we started crossing paths, you know, maybe 96 or 97 was when I first met Matt and Jeff, and we just kind of hit it off, you know, right away. Omega at that time was a group called New Frontier. Yeah. And that was their home fed at the time. And but it was in that time that I met him, so I was with Omega from the very beginning.
And Omega stands for what, for the people that aren't familiar?
Organization Modern Extreme Grappling Artists.
Nice.
We just have to read Jimbo's T-shirt that he's
I'm rocking
today.
my Omega shirt.
Yeah, I was going to tell you, Shane, Jimbo here has got the Omega shirt on.
Yeah, represent.
My
Highway to Helms shirt is dirty.
And he's not kidding. He has a Highway to Helms shirt, too.
Oh, very good. Very good. That's my man.
Oh, yeah. So hey, we have a clip. We have actually had a clip that Jimbo found of you doing
So I pulled a clip from Omega
Yeah.
when it was.
Can I guess which one it's going to be?
I'm
bet
pretty
you
sure
can.
you know. It was hard
Is
to
it me
find it.
jumping off the back of an 18-wheeler, killing myself?
Bingo.
Yeah.
So can we
I can
see
tell
that,
you
Mark?
What happened. I can tell you where things went wrong.
Yeah.
Well, like first of all, like that was a.
Oh shit!
Armory. Did you just see it?
Yeah, and it's like playing again. It's like on a loop. Oh my God, Shane. Anyways, go ahead.
Yes. So that show was in an armory.
Yeah.
A grand old armory, as they say. And that was a military transport 18-wheeler, the back one, and they couldn't move it.
Right.
And so Matt and them didn't find out till that day. So as I'm walking into the building, Matt's in the ring with somebody, and they're going over something. And he just goes, "Hey, Shane, if we put a table in this ring, you'll jump off that thing on me?" And like without even moving, without stopping or anything, I just go, "Yeah, sure thing." And I walk right to the locker room.
Oh.
And like that's how crazy. Like I was Jeff Hardy back in the day.
Right.
I just spawned up a long time ago and said I need to quit jump off of shit.
Oh crap.
But
did you get hurt on that?
when we set that, no, not too bad. You know, when we set the table up, I was on my knees doing the snooker thing.
Yeah.
You know, like on one knee and had my hands raised, and at that eye line and eyesight level, it looked like it was okay. But then as I stood up, I realized that it was a little too close to the ropes for me to get a good angle on it.
Yep.
And so if you see when I dive, I kind of have to I lift my feet up real tight, my knee, bend my knees real tight, so because I'm worried about clipping that top rope, and I just hit him with all my quads.
And you're and you're up there.
And I was pretty jacked at the time too.
Yeah.
At least 170.
Did you
So
even think
I just
about not
scorpioned my whole
jumping?
body.
Shane, did you even think about not jumping?
No. You know how
Figured.
stupid we are. Once we're committed,
Yeah.
we're committed.
Yeah, that's the thing. And I know this is a bit higher than that jump, but I'm comparing it to when Shane McMahon jumped off the cage at WrestleMania, and people are going, "Oh, you gotta be scared." Yeah, but see, to some people, the thought of being booed out of the fucking building for climbing back down and not jumping is way scarier than the actual jump.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, the only thing that I thought about was like maybe I cannonball him,
Yeah.
But I was like, I can probably control this a little bit better jumping this way. But like I said, when I was on my knees, it was a little different. When I stood up and added a couple more feet of height, I was going, oh no. But we were committed. Like I said, we were committed. So I was going in. If you'll notice, my tag team partner, didn't give a shit about me. He just walked over and grabbed the belt and holds it up. He doesn't check on me at all. Like me and Matt, we kind of looked up and made eye contact because Matt went through the table and we kind of made a little eye contact to make sure we were okay. And I went back to selling, but my partner, who's supposed to have my back, Big Mike, you remember him? He was one of the Dupps from ECW.
Oh, Mike Dupp, yes, yeah, of course.
Yeah, he just grabs the belt, walks around, steps over my broken body. Don't even check to see if I'm okay.
Shane, were any of you all trained at that point?
I was actually never went to any official school period, ever in my entire career.
Oh, come on. Nothing?
Matt and them might have been, they might have already been to the Funkin' Dojo at that point. But no, I never had been.
But you never went, I don't mean to jump around, but you never went to Funkin' Dojo or anything like that?
No. The only thing
or Dr.
that
Tom
came
or
close,
anything?
No.
Where did the thing with Bagwell happen?
When I got hired in WCW, they made us go to the power plant to get evaluated for a couple of days.
Okay.
But I was already hired at that point, and I went down there for a couple of days, and then they sent us home. Sent me home, so.
It's amazing me that. So how did you end up
learning how to wrestle?
Yeah.
It was you hear people say that it's all they wanted to do forever, and to me that's kind of a cliche thing for people to say because it's a cool thing to say, but for me it was literally the first thing I ever remember seeing on TV. I don't remember Bugs Bunny or none of that shit. I remember watching wrestling with my dad.
Yeah.
I went to my first live show in 1979. I was 5. I remember that, and I would literally study it. My dad would buy all the Mark mags, and I would memorize them, word for word. when I would get my little G.I. Joe toys, I would throw all the guns away. They would become wrestlers, and I just had these notebooks and notebooks of these pay-per-views that I made.
Yeah.
You know, and
booking your own.
I would unscrew the backs off of them and put like the big muscle arms on certain ones, stuff like that. Like I was just a maniac about it. And when I was 13 and I like got involved with this independent company, and I was just like helping them out, you know, cleaning up and taking down the ring and stuff like that. Like the second I got in the ring with these guys, and these were like, you know, not backyarders, but they were definitely indie. Like I was correcting mistakes that they were making just because of how in depth I studied it by watching it, you know. And I was a pretty bright kid, so there was just stuff that I picked up, you know, that just other people didn't. I think that's why sometimes I have a hard time teaching people things.
Okay.
Because I never had to learn it. I just had an instinct for it.
Well,
and when you have that instinct for things, it's hard for you to, you know, relay that message because it just came to me naturally.
How did that go over with those guys, a 13-year-old kid telling them they're doing something wrong?
Well, there was some that didn't like it, but the people that realized that I was correct, they just said, okay, well, we got us a little prodigy here. And they appreciated it. But it's like anything, you know, like being smarter than someone is a double-edged sword sometimes. You know, I got invited to a collegiate program when I was 11 years old at the University of Missouri. And so when people hear that, you either got the people that instantly hate you, you know, or you got the people that think it's pretty cool, you know. But for the most part, people don't like it. So, and they feel threatened or challenged by it. And, you know, having a high IQ doesn't mean that you memorize the encyclopedias at all. It just means you think a little differently. That's really all it means, you know.
Sure.
And so there were people that, you know, took it to their advantage. Like I was helping book this company when I was about 14 or 15. And we started like doing really good as far as a small independent company goes. And then at 16, I had my first match. And like I said, my only training had been going in there playing around with these guys. Yeah. And they didn't know half the hell what they were doing. Like I would have to teach them what side to work. And, you know, you do a suplex
Oh, wow,
on this side,
really?
you know. And I didn't even know why that was. I just knew that that's what I saw on TV.
So Shane, you actually picked up on while watching
this at home, kids.
While watching wrestling as a fan, you picked up on the fact that we always work on the left side?
Yeah.
Wow,
man. I knew when you did it. I just knew that when you did an arm drag, you did the arm drag with the left and you hit toss with the right. I didn't know why. You know, I just knew that's what I was seeing.
I never. It had to be told to me, you know. And Shane, I would like to think I was just as caught up and focused on wrestling as you, but I never caught on to that part. Wow, man, that's pretty damn impressive.
That's just like how brains work differently.
Now, Shane, when you first started wrestling and not being trained and all that, like, were you at least taught how to lock up, or did you figure that out yourself too?
I knew how to lock up the first time I stepped in the ring. Like Mike Dupp was the guy we were talking about earlier. Him and another guy named David Coates, who, strangely enough, are my partners now in Omega, running Omega. Yeah. They were the ones in the ring that I was hanging around at this independent show after. And they go, "Hey, kid, you want to get in?" And I go, "Yeah." So, of course, I jumped in. And they go, "You know how to lock up?" And I go, "Yeah." And they go, "You do?" And I go, "Yeah." And they locked up, and I just knew how to do it, like just from that. The only thing I didn't know was the office, because that was so subliminal that, you know, so minute to see that it would be hard to pick that out. That was the only thing that really kind of blew my mind when somebody was squeezing my wrist, and I was going, "What the hell is this guy doing?"
I'm pretty sure. I'm pretty sure a lot of people still don't know what you're talking about. If you want to explain it to them, Shane. Is that something we want to keep to ourselves?
You want somebody to reverse something, you give them a little iggy, you squeeze the wrist, you know, and it can mean a couple different things, but I think that's generally what it means for the most. You know, or, you know, I've had heels do it when they want me to fight back, just kind of squeeze me a little bit, and then you start fighting back. So it's just kind of a little communication.
Sometimes when somebody gives you the office like that, you have to actually do some thinking as to what it is they're giving you the office about.
Uh-huh.
So, I mean, I've had to do that a couple of times, but maybe that was just me.
Well, does it help, like, depending on who you're working with, you know, like, what type of chain, or like what things, like if you're working with Dean Malenko and he gives you something like that, you're like, oh, okay, he's going to go into this, or like Owen and Bulldog kind of situation.
Well, when we were starting wrestling training, we were taught to go in and out of holds, and, you know, without, like, you don't call that stuff. Shane, were you able to do that with guys? do the chain, what they
Chain,
call
yeah.
chain wrestling?
Yeah.
Wow, that's even
Yeah,
more
yeah.
impressive. I got to tell you, for everyone listening at home, and Shane, hopefully you'll agree with me, like the route you took is not something I would suggest to absolutely anyone else in wrestling that wants to get into
No,
wrestling.
not at all.
Everyone else needs to be trained. There's like one in them, like Shane Helms's, they don't come along hardly ever. Just want to get that out of the way right now. Okay, back to you, Shane.
Don't stop going to wrestling school.
Oh, shit.
And now too, it did create problems because like when I would go to shows and there was always be guys like the two like my first match was in 1991. Now there's no cruiserweight division, there's no Rey Mysterios, there's no Hardy Boys. There's my little tiny ass in North Carolina. I weigh about in 1991 I was still in high school and I wrestled 125 that year, and I graduated. I was about 130. So you're talking about a really small guy, and the bigger guys, they weren't about that at that time. They hated all the little guys. And Sean, you know exactly what I'm talking about.
Yeah, I have a pretty good idea. Yeah, that was right around the same time.
For little man here.
Yeah.
I had that said to my face. I'm not going to sell for little man here, but I had an amateur background too. So
that's right.
Whenever like guys would try to get rough with me because, when I told them I went to this school, like I would associate myself with this one company. It's like, yeah. But because at that time I knew, don't tell people you weren't trained because it's going to make problems. Just go in there, show them what you can do, and eventually it'll all work out.
Sure.
But then you had, and it did, But then like there were guys like we were just saying, I'm not going to sell for little man here, and they go in there and they try to get rough, and there wasn't a lot of pro wrestlers that had any amateur background, not North Carolina back in those days.
Right.
And so it was actually kind of pretty easy because I would just dump them on the head a little bit, even being that small. And I was just a scrappy little bastard. I wasn't about being bullied. Like, I would fight back. And if you beat me up, then that's just what's going to have to happen. But I was going to fight back. And you're going to have to beat me up. You know what I mean?
Sure.
I wasn't about getting pushed around too much. So in that regard, it kind of, like, hurt a little bit that guys were like, this guy wasn't trained by nobody with any kind of credentials. Because I wouldn't come out and lie. I wouldn't say I was trained by so-and-so if I wasn't. I'd just say, well, I trained with this little company. And they would know that there was nobody that in that company that was reputable. So it would create difficult scenarios. But
the thing about it is, Shane, is if you have what it takes, and like you, it doesn't matter. You're gonna find a way to make it, and you're gonna find a way to be good at what you do. And even the smallest amount of training or whatever. Yeah, it's ideal to have great training. I was so lucky to have, Dean Malenko and his brother and his dad, the great Malenko as teachers. I mean, you can't get any better than that. But not everybody, is that fortunate. And, Billy Gunn was telling me when I had him on that he really never was trained either. Another guy it just dawned on me that I was talking to that really did well in the industry. So.
It's interesting that Billy Gunn does a lot of training, and Shane, you said that you find it difficult to train others because of the way that you just picked it up, right?
Yeah, it was difficult earlier. Like now I've got a lot more patience, but like when I was younger and I was trying to help guys and stuff like that, and especially like in WWE when all the guys would come up from developmental, we got to retrain them. My patience wasn't very good, and because to me it came so easy to me. Like, I didn't understand why they couldn't do it.
Yeah.
And too,
sure.
Sean, I guarantee you feel the same way. In WWE, like, it would always piss me off that there were people there that weren't good because I'm like, why did we hire these people that suck?
Yeah.
It would drive me absolutely nuts,
Yeah.
So my patience then was very thin. But, like, now with helping younger guys and stuff like that, like, my patience is just a little bit more open. Just having that full understanding of what made me impatient before was because, like I said, it came naturally to me. I didn't have to learn it. Just for whatever reason, I knew it.
Yeah.
And now I understand that. And, it's just having a little more introspection into what makes me tick has given me a little bit more patience.
What do you think that as far as mentoring younger guys, what do you think your strong points are as far as like, I'm not the guy that personally is going to teach you the holds. Let somebody else do that. Come to me after you get all that shit figured out. I'll help you after that.
My strong point, well, especially as an agent, I'm an agent with TNA.
Yeah.
my strong point is that I've kind of done a little bit of everything.
Yep.
And John, you're very similar in this. You know, you got over as a heel, you got over as a babyface, you got over as a wrestler. You know, I don't know if you ever did a character quite like the Hurricane was, but you definitely had different personalities at times. And, you know, but like
underdog.
Not really, and all those areas. Not only did I got over in those areas too. So there's not many scenarios they can put me in or matches that they're gonna give me that I haven't been there.
Sure.
And that's what, to me, agents and even in WWE, they all seem to be lacking at some point. You know, like if you were a babyface, you would want Steamboat as your agent because he was one of the greatest of all time. Being a heel might not necessarily be his strength.
Right.
Now, if you were a heel, you want Arn Anderson as your agent because Arn can come up with some, you know, really tricky stuff as a heel. And if you needed a good spot, that's where you go to Malenko. You know, you got to find agents that, you know, work to their strengths, you know, but very few have that really well-rounded career that I kind of was lucky to have. So that's kind of what my strength is, really just the experience of being in just about every situation you can imagine in the business. So
yeah, well, and as you're saying that, it makes me think, you know, about myself, and it sounds like very similar in so many ways, Shane. You know, you started setting the ring up, right, first?
Yeah.
And did you referee at all?
Yes, sir.
And did you do any of the promoting and that as well? I mean, you did the booking.
Yeah. We did promoting as far as hanging up posters and doing as much, you know, radio and stuff as we could back in those days.
So the thing is you've done pretty much every job there, like, you know, from the bottom job all the way up, and so there's nothing like you're one of those guys that, you know, if there's pretty much you can do everything is what I'm trying to say, and and that means you don't have to be a slave to anybody. I mean, you know, and you can be put in any situation, and that's how I learned, you know, and actually Vince did that with Shane and Steph. I mean, it was harder to do it with Steph, but, you know, Vince made Shane, you know, obviously he's still Vince's son, but he made him as best he could, you know, start, you know, carrying the ring, doing all that grunt work and all that shit. So, but, you know,
the only thing I didn't really do coming up, and I just got the opportunity in TNA, was to be a manager.
Oh yeah.
And that was the most awkward shit of all time. Like, I didn't know what to do out there. Like, do I just yell the whole time? Do I just sit here and, like, you know, have my fingers interlocked like I'm thinking and I'm formulating a plan? Because you don't want to take away from the match. You know, you got to let the action speak. And when there's a lull is when you want to kind of do your thing. But it's just because I had never done it, it was as awkward as anything I'd ever done, you know.
For Trevor Lee?
That was the...
being a manager for Trevor Lee?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, that was like, what do I do out here? Do I just yell the whole time and, you know,
rubbing your hands together like you have a plan? I remember that Paul Ellering used to do that a lot when he would stand there and not do anything.
He'd have the Wall Street Journal.
Yeah, or something like that.
He still does that today on NXT with the Authors of Pain.
I bet. It's such an easy go-to thing to do.
So Shane,
I just sent Christy a picture of me refereeing with Ricky and Robert. I was probably 16 here, maybe 15, but I know I was a senior in high school. She gets it on her whatever number that I had.
Oh yeah, this is cute. We're gonna facilitate this, and we're gonna throw it up here in just a sec.
There's
this
also
is cute. That's what every pro wrestler wants to hear. This is cute.
Hey Shane, you know that picture that's
when they see it, they'll know what I mean.
That picture that's up of you and I, and you're in the Hurricane gimmick, and I'm in my green, and we're matching perfectly. Do you remember that picture?
Uh-huh.
Do you remember? Do you remember the match we had that night? I think it was the only time we were ever in a match together.
Yeah. It was a 4-way or a 3-way or something like that, right?
It was a tag match. Do you remember who
was it a tag?
Do you remember our opponent?
I remember the one skitty promoter.
Yes, exactly. Remember what the people were chanting?
Oh, is this meth or
crystal meth?
And I did a show with him not too long after that, or it might have been before, and I called him a hairy toothpick.
Oh God!
And the crowd started chanting that. And then I said he looked like a toothpick with AIDS.
Oh, God.
And like it was about 7 minutes of nonstop crowd chanting that, and we didn't even get to touch. So
well,
he's a good little character.
Right, but I don't want to be on his shows or in a match with him. And the funny thing is this guy insisted on wearing 3 layers of T-shirts in the ring with us. And so Shane backs the guy in the corner and pulls all 3 of his shirts up over his head and just smacks the shit out of him right in the chest. It was great. It was great. I never, the guy paid.
Like we're not going to know he's skinny,
Right?
You can wear like they do. We know you're skinny. Take that shit off.
Exactly. Or just don't get in the ring. Come on, man. Stay on the other side of the rail. But anyways, I got a kick out of that. It was one of those things that I wasn't happy about at the time, but now I look back at it and laugh because, Jesus Christ.
I think it's crazy in all the years of you guys wrestling and like wrestling in the same companies, you've never had a singles match against each other.
Right.
Yeah, how did that happen?
Really good.
Not against each other. We were in a tag match in WWE right when, and I'll tell you why this memory stands out to me. And I want to say it was like me and Billy Kidman against Sean and Tajiri.
Oh,
and
wow.
I know it was Tajiri because I got put in and this is a house show, is when they're kind of like integrating the WCW and WWF guys,
Right.
Matches together. And at one point, the referee had done something, made some kind of mistake or whatever.
Uh-oh.
And anyway, I'm over there in that tarantula,
Yeah.
and all I could hear is you cussing his ass up and down. You lamb blasted his ass, and I just, like, I'm supposed to be selling this tarantula, and I just
Right.
completely stopped, and I'm looking over there going, I'm glad this ain't me.
I wonder what it was he did because, Shane, I get like that when it comes to our job because, man, I mean, we take that shit so seriously, And you hate, I get on myself when I fuck something up. So, when we're out there working our ass up and the referee's out of place or, something and, fucks up what we're doing, I get hot.
Yeah, but in the back, you like right away you're calm. But like
Yeah.
at that particular moment, I can get like that too, man. I got that, sometimes I can get pretty mad, but like it goes away so quick. Like just
Sure.
minutes later, I don't even give a shit or can't even remember what it was about.
That's a good thing too, man. I mean, I'm not like it's man. We carry that shit around so much, and I don't do that anymore. But yeah, I don't remember that, but I remember on a regular basis chewing somebody out in the ring. So I know you're telling the truth. I know you're telling the truth.
Luckily, it was never me.
No, luckily for me, it was never you. Hey, Shane, so I was a fan of, and I wasn't a fan of a lot going on in WCW at the time, but I was a fan of Sugar Shane Helms.
Well, I appreciate that.
Yeah, and I dug the name because I thought Sugar Shane Mosley was a pretty cool name, and I was assuming maybe that kind of maybe you'd heard him use that name, and I just thought it was cool, and I thought it was really cool, Shane, that like you wore wrestling gear, like fucking short trunks, and you looked like a wrestler, not a big wrestler, but a fucking professional wrestler, and you were a great.
I think I was one of the first little guys to bare the legs.
Yeah.
That style I did is Sugar Shane, and you're one of the guys that needs credit for that too, because that's the style that is the most over right now. And it's one of the things too that in TNA it kind of hurts our X Division.
Yeah.
Because the X Division isn't unique anymore because everybody's doing it.
Yeah.
So it's hard to define what that X Division even is anymore. It's lost its identity because it got over, though. For the best of reasons, it lost its identity. But back in those Sugar Shane days, man, like just like how much I would study, like I would get tapes from Japan, get tapes from Europe, get tapes from Mexico, and try to combine all of those different styles with that American style, trying to create this hybrid thing.
Yeah.
And like, I don't think in my mind I was like trying to create this new thing. It was just like I liked all the different styles, and I was like, why do we have to do just the one? Why can't we do a little bit of all of this? And I was just such a fan of wrestling in general that's what made me incorporate all these things. I didn't have this master plan to try to create this new style at all. But when I think about the guys that were doing it at that time, you're definitely one of the guys on the list. Whether it was Sugar Shane, Jerry Lynn,
Yep.
very uncredited for being one of those
Amazing.
guys that would try to, do a lot of new things, and add Billy Kidman to that. Like, and without a doubt, you can even go back a little further and talk about Dynamite, how trend-setting he was, a Dynamite Kid. But as far as for being the Americans that were doing that in America, me, you, Jerry, and Billy, we're kind of like the four horsemen, or at least the Mount Rushmore of that particular style, which apparently is the thing nowadays, because that's what you see more than anything now. So give yourself a lot of credit too, man.
You know what?
You deserve way more than you get.
Oh, I appreciate you saying that, Shane. And I just assume that other people give me credit. I'm not one for, as many things as people can say about me, and most of them are true. I'm not that guy that likes to do a lot of bragging. So I appreciate it when people like you say it, though, because like the respect of our peers is it's huge to me. It's as big as anything, And
yeah, I agree.
Yeah, it's
I agree.
Really
I still get a lot from my peers. The only part that I would lose it because of the fans was because the Hurricane was such a comedy thing, and they don't realize how hard comedy is to do, especially in a violent scenario or simulated violent scenario as pro wrestling, and to be consistently good at being funny is super damn hard. And for me to get that character over, I kind of had to wrestle down. I couldn't wrestle like Sugar Shane anymore. And I couldn't wrestle like how I did as Gregory Helms after the heel turn, because it didn't fit the character. Like, and I would notice that at these house shows when I would go out there and have these matches where it's move for move for move and doing all this shit. Like, the people just weren't as into it as much as when I did the "what's up with that" and poke somebody in the eye and then choke slam them. Then they would go crazy, and I was like, man.
So did it
So I kind of had to wrestle. Go ahead.
No, I was going to say, so did it bother you at first? Was it something that bothered you because you felt like you had to go out there and do all these things, or you weren't earning your money, or giving the fans their money's worth, or however you want to put it?
Yeah, there was definitely a transitional period where it was tough for me to like I said, wrestle down. That was tough because I always felt I need to go out there and, you got to steal the show. That's what we're taught, but stealing the show can sometimes mess up a show. If you go out there and steal the show in the third match, and now you got 6 more matches, you can kind of mess the flow up of things.
Sure.
And I was a big fan of the show in its entirety, not just of one singular segment or one singular match. Like, I'm a fan of what makes the show work as a whole, and then looking back at especially at the crew that we had in the WWF at the time, especially now that they had WCW too. I mean, we had some of the greatest wrestlers in the world. I mean, we had Kurt Angle.
Yeah.
We had The Rock. We had Stone Cold. We had all of these people, but they didn't have a. So I just had to come to terms with that. Like, okay, I can make this work, and this is going to make me stand out. I just got to suck it up and figure out how to make that work. And at that time, it was just don't go out there and do 10,000 moves, because they don't want to see that from you. They're going to see that from these other guys. But you're the one that's going to make them laugh, and they're going to remember your ass when they go home.
Yeah. Hey Shane, when you first came to WWE from WCW, when that whole thing happened, how did you find that experience of assimilating into the WWE crew?
Well, I knew some of the guys. Of course, I knew Matt and Jeff, and I had been backstage a couple times up there, visiting with them and that sort of thing. So I knew people, and I didn't have any enemies. But actually, when I had that little altercation with Buff Bagwell, that kind of endeared me to the whole WWE. Like, they took my back because the locker rooms were segregated.
Yes.
Like, you had WCW on one side and WWF on the other. After that Bagwell incident, my bags got moved to the WWF side.
Sure.
So, like, I was welcomed with open arms because of that.
I remember you telling me. Well, I don't remember you telling. I remember hearing about it from others. And that, but there are some people, believe it or not, a few that aren't familiar with the story. Do you mind going, telling us the story? Pretending like I haven't heard it before.
I don't mind. I mean,
sorry.
Buff still has a very edited version of the story.
Oh, I'm sure.
Contradicts what me and 20 other people in the building saw. And I don't know why we made up since then. So I don't know why he doesn't just kind of let it go. But we were at that Trax training center in Connecticut.
Yes.
To get used to the WWF ring, because it was bigger than the WCW one.
And the ropes feel different.
And the ropes.
Yeah.
Yeah, the ropes are really different. So they brought all the WCW guys up there, and one of the days, during like a lunch break or something, everybody, the boys are constantly busting each other's balls, and I'd actually got hurt that day working with Mike Awesome. like I went to drop kick him, and he like just whiffed me, and I came crashing down right on my shoulder. And so I was in the ring sitting on like with my back to the bottom rope, not in the turnbuckle, but just kind of in the middle with my back to the rope. And I had this little tiny 10-ounce plastic water bottle that I got out of the refrigerator. It wasn't frozen. There was no ice in it, which that story kind of got, exaggerated a little bit. Just a little tiny bottle, and that's all I had that was cool. And I'm just sitting there rubbing it on my shoulder. And everybody's talking junk to each other, And for some reason, Buff decides to pick me out. Well, I'm a smart ass.
Right.
It's kind of one of my gifts. And so I start firing back on him, and I start winning the verbal battle. And he gets, like, offended by it and comes and slaps me in the ear. Like, he's standing on the floor.
Oh.
And I got my back to the bottom rope, so he's behind me. And just comes and hits me, like, from behind, like, in the ear. Like, hard. I mean, he hit me hard as hell, too, now. And I was just like, my reaction was, I threw that bottle, like, at him, not like a fast pitch. It's just kind of how you throw something at somebody's face to distract them. And then I hopped out of the ring, and now we're going to go. But apparently, I threw that shit with some velocity or something, because blood started shooting out every damn where. And he's doing the Ric Flair thing. He's like, no, that sort of shit,
Right.
And I'm going, what in the hell? And so that was kind of it, and it didn't really go anywhere other than that.
And I'm glad it didn't, because who the hell really wants to see the boys fight? And it was unfortunate that it even went that far. Somebody can't, condition.
Yeah, you
up
never
or
want
can't
to see
take it.
you never want to see somebody really hurt, especially the boys. Like, even if you're entertained that they're going to fight, you don't want to see nobody have to go to the hospital.
And even if the guy's like your least favorite guy on the roster, like he's still one of us, So.
Yeah.
Yeah, man.
So what would happen when you would run into him after that? You said he never really got over it.
He wasn't there much longer.
No, the next time I saw him was, I think, in Atlanta, and that's where he ended up getting released. And he came up and he goes, damn, Sugar. He goes, next time, just, hit me with a brick or something. And I distinctly remember going, there better not be a next time.
Right.
And it was just that really cold moment of like, don't ever think you can touch me. And JR, I got called into the principal's office. They wanted to know what happened. But they'd already got the story from everybody that was there. There were agents that were there. So everybody had already given JR the exact same story I just told you. And I told JR, I said, listen, I apologize that it happened. I said, but I can never let anybody put their hands on me. Like, that will not happen. I will fight back every time. So
I don't think nobody has a problem with that. I can't imagine anyone having a problem with that, Shane. And Mark had a match with Booker T. That was their first, and Mark's last match. It was in Vancouver, and he just and I knew him to be better than that, but for some reason that night he just wasn't. He didn't have he didn't have it, and then. No.
And we both know he was good. He was tailor made for the WWF.
Sure.
It should have worked out for him, and it just didn't. And that's one of the reasons I was really concerned when they called me into that office, because Buff Bagwell was a much bigger star, at that time than Sugar Shane was. So I was really worried about how this was going to go, but they didn't. It was kind of one of those things, don't do it again, sort of shit. And but yeah, after the match with Bagwell. And I want to think that was actually somewhere in Seattle. Are you sure it was Vancouver?
It was up there in that neck of the woods.
But here's what happened. Here's how there was some kind of, not necessarily revenge, but here's what was supposed to happen. Because you were the lightweight champion at the time, light heavyweight, right?
I think
now,
so.
It was always going to be you and Billy.
Right.
But Billy was going to beat me in Atlanta. I was supposed to be introduced in a couple matches against Chavo, introduced me as the cruiserweight champion. I was going to drop it to Billy in Atlanta, because that's WCW territory. Really established Billy because he was a much bigger star than Sugar Shane was at the time. So I understood that, But because of that Booker T Bagwell match being so bad, they decided to hotshot the angle with me and Billy. So my debut match on WWE TV is actually me losing that cruiserweight title.
Oh, no
so
shit.
I never got introduced so that first night that I come in, and this was when I was as worried as you can be about your career. Because that day I find out that they're not going to let me be Shane, which I kind of had an idea that might happen, but I was Sugar Shane on all the house shows up until that point, so they hadn't said anything. So I was kind of hoping I could stay Sugar Shane. But that day they told me I couldn't be Shane, and so therefore I can't be Sugar.
Right.
So that was the gimmick. Well, I'm not going to have the girls with me because there was still talk that maybe they were going to bring the Nitro girls up because they were the Sugar babies because they would come out with me. And so they're worried about me doing the Vertebreaker. So I can't do the Vertebreaker. And my entrance music is the Vertebreaker, so now I can't use that either. And I'm going to drop the title that night. So it's just all this. So I weighed about 30 pounds after that. It's just like they took everything. And I was just like, oh, my goodness. But Stephanie was the one that told me all that. But she was very cool. And she was like, don't worry. It sounds like a lot. We like you. You're going to be fine. And so still went out there with, Billy. Still went out there, and no matter what, I always feel you go out there and you bust your ass, no matter the scenario, because the fans deserve that. You don't carry any disagreements in the ring. You still go out there and give them what you can. And so we went out there and we did it, but, I came out as Gregory Helms. They wanted to call me Hollywood Helms, and I didn't want to. And I think it even still says Hollywood on my Titantron.
Oh, wow.
And I didn't want to because I was like, for two reasons. If you hear me talk, I think Hollywood might be the last place you would expect me to be from.
That's true.
And also, there was another guy who just had been called Hollywood, and he had some pretty big boots.
Yeah.
To fill.
Yeah, he did.
So
he still does.
Why in the hell would I want? Why would I want to do that? That sounds terrible. And so I came out just as Gregory Helms. But that night flying home, I was on the plane because it was a red-eye back. And I just wrote down every name I'd ever almost used or every name I had used. I had a bunch of stupid names on this list. And I was the Hurricane Kid briefly. And when Kevin and Scott made it cool to use your real name, Shane Hurricane Helms was what I wanted to be just because it rhymed. No other reason. And so the next week at TV, I get there early. I'm out there waiting, before anybody. So that's a message to the young guys. I got there early, and I went to Stephanie the second I saw her, and I said, what do you think about Hurricane Helms? And she goes, you don't want to be Gregory either, huh? And I go, no, not really. And so she went to the production meeting, and when they came out a couple hours later, there was Vince, and he goes, Hurricane Helms, I like it. And as you well know, you get the thumbs up from him, it's pretty much set in stone. So
that's it. Yeah. Somehow they made Vince think it was his idea to call you Hurricane Helms.
So did you have the whole superhero character already planned when you pitched them the name, or was it just like a moniker for what you were already doing?
No, that was just a moniker. It just rhymed with Shane, and I thought Shane Hurricane Helms sounded good. I was like I said, I was an amateur wrestler, man. My wrestling style back in those days, that's what I wanted to be. I wanted to be, a Randy Savage, Ric Flair, Kurt Angle, that type of stuff. But they had been looking for somebody. I think Brian Growitz had always wanted to do a superhero character.
I was going to say, Brian, you were a comic book fan, right? Yeah. And Brian Gewirtz was a huge comic book fan. So I mean, it makes total sense, that would end up being what happened. But who came up with the cowl? Who designed the cowl?
At first it was just makeup, and I'll tell you another funny Vince story, because the first mask they got me was legitimately a Lone Ranger mask, like you got from some cheap-ass Halloween store. They brought it to that day, and the outfit, too, is black, all black with like a gold H on the front that's kind of, italicized a little bit. Yeah. And there was a hurricane symbol on my butt that just kind of looked like a bullseye around my butthole.
Around your butthole.
Yeah, just like this is where you want your foot to go, or whatever. I don't know what.
Or whatever.
I was just going to leave it at foot. But and I went to Vince, and I said, I don't know if this mask is going to work. Like, too, keep in mind, I'm still new, and you don't want to, I know Squeaky Wheel gets the oil, but Squeaky Wheel can get thrown in the damn trash too.
Can just get replaced.
The Squeaky Wheel it can get replaced really quick. So I didn't, so he's like, you don't want to wear the mask? I said, no, I just don't want to wear this one. Like, this is a piece of shit. It's going to fall off in like 10 seconds. And Vince goes, and I think he appreciated the candor about that too, and the honesty. And I was like, it's not going to work. And he goes, what about makeup? And this is the part that I remember the most. And I go, like the Road Warriors? He goes, like the Ultimate Warrior. And I go, okay. him too. Whatever.
Right.
But yeah, whatever warrior you want me to be like. Is that what you mean? He goes, yeah. And so Jan, the makeup lady, would do my makeup at TV, and I would have all these intricate, cute little patterns on my face. At the house shows, when I had to do the makeup, it would look like complete garbage.
Oh no! Oh no!
I would just
I'm
have like big
picturing
diamonds
that.
on my face. Yeah, it would just be terrible. And everybody, I would work really hard on it. And everybody that, Lance Storm would be the worst. We'd lock up and he'd smear my makeup all over my face because he knew I spent an hour trying to get it halfway decent.
Yeah.
And he would just mess it all up right away.
People don't realize people don't realize Lance Storm's actually a pretty funny guy.
Oh, he's very funny.
Anyways.
But then, like, in the meantime, talking with Terry, who was one of the seamstresses who's still there, she had a guy that did leather masks and stuff. I don't know why. I'm hoping it might be her job, but it might be a little side project. I don't know. But I had to fly up there, and they ended up making the mask for me. So
it's a pretty badass mask.
We just had a picture of it up.
The one I got now is even better. That one I had in WWE for all those years, man, I couldn't even see down in that thing. Like, that's how that whole kind of silly hurricane walk developed, where I'm kind of leaning over a little bit, was because I couldn't see down. If you were like a foot from me and you went to shake my hand, I couldn't see it.
I never knew that.
So it was, yeah, it's a miracle I didn't kill myself.
I was going to say, was it ever a safety issue? Can you ever remember a time where that was an issue in the ring?
Yeah, when I would do springboards, and so I kind of stopped doing them in WWE.
Yeah.
Like, it just, like, I would like have to like completely stare at the ropes, and like when you do the springboard, as you well know, you're kind of holding the ropes and you know where it's at, but you're kind of focusing on the guy, and you kind of got to divide your attention a little bit. Where I would have to focus so much on the ropes, I would lose eyesight of where the guy was at, and it was just, not a comfortable thing to do.
Not to mention, Shane, when you're trying to do a springboard in a WWE ring, the ropes are a bit higher, for one thing, and they're not nearly as tight. So, there's a lot more room for error doing a springboard in a WWE ring without a mask or without something obstructing your view. So.
Yeah, that's why you see a lot of guys do a cheat close to the corner.
That's what I always did. I never did it from the middle.
Yeah.
Never. So, and the first time I whiffed, I quit doing it. Because, when you land on your ass or eat shit in front of 10,000 people, it makes you think twice about trying it again.
Yeah, it'll make it, yeah.
So eventually I ended up with 4 moves.
Yeah. I just started choke slamming people. That worked out a lot better for me anyway.
So when you debuted as the Hurricane and you face Matt Hardy, you win the European title, what goes through your mind, and like what are you thinking when that happens? And then not you debut, but then you wrestle AJ Styles in his debut in the WWF. What happens there? That was a lot. I'm sorry. 2 questions. My bad.
Damn it, Jimbo.
It's okay. Shane's smart. He can remember
that
both.
was a part because I was a babyface when I worked AJ. So that there had to be a little bit of time there, time difference. But, I mean, the thing that, with doing that character, there's a thin line with that character in between being Batman and Doink the Clown. So
good way of putting it.
I knew that I would have to put a lot into it to make it work. And, then by making me the European champion, that at least told me that they got faith in me, at least at this point, that I can do something. So that part, gave me a lot of confidence. If you go out there with that character and you're just like this asshole loser all the time, it's just not going to work, because my gimmick wasn't that I was a superhero. My gimmick was that I thought I was.
Right.
When I got in the ring, I didn't have superpowers. I wasn't like shooting laser beams out of my eyes or had this massive amount of strength, but my gimmick was that I thought I was, and there had to be a reason I thought that. So, you got to be able to win and like that. So for that particular character, when people say that wins and losses don't matter, sometimes they do.
They do.
Sometimes they don't. But for a character like that, yes, they do. Because if not, why the hell would I keep doing this if it isn't working, So.
Shane, wins and losses don't matter is something somebody says when they're trying to get you to do a job.
Yep. And I noticed the most people that say it are people that win all the time.
Exactly. Or they're in control of their own shit and they can win, lose, win. You know what I mean? So it's when you actually have a say so, it makes a difference. So.
But when you worked with AJ, go ahead.
Well, you notice the match with AJ, like I like that's an enhancement match, so it should be a majority of Hurricane doing all Hurricane stuff. But I liked AJ a lot. I was trying to get him hired back then. So if you're like in that match, that's why hit that shooting star. I'll just roll out of the way. Let's let them see what you can actually do. So I tried really hard to get AJ hired at the time, but I think they lowballed him on some kind of offer and wanted him to move and do all this kind of shit. And at that time too, the company was still a big man. It was still a big man company. So it just wasn't the right time. And like even if they had hired him back then, it might not have worked out the way that it has now. So who's to say?
And I know, like you like me, Shane. Okay, an enhancement match doesn't mean that it can't be entertaining. And I always my philosophy on enhancement matches is like it's not just for me to go out there and squash this guy. And just get my shit in. I gotta make it entertaining, And to do that, you gotta try to, even if the guy's not very talented, have him move on something little, just any little thing that you can do, I just hate those enhancement matches where they're just wandering aimlessly through the match and just there's no build up to the finish and no flow to the match. Ugh. Yuck.
Especially if you got like 7 or 8 minutes. Like
Yeah.
if it's just an old school squash where you go out there and bing, bang, bam, and you go home, like that's one thing. But if you got 7, 8 minutes, like I would get bored with myself if I'm just beating up on a guy for 7, 8 minutes.
Yeah.
We got to do something here. This is the entertainment. This is the entertainment industry. So if it's not entertaining, we're missing something. But too, when I would work with enhancement guys that I thought had a chance, like I never had a ego about, hey, if this guy gets hired, it might be bad for me. I can never think like that, and I'm just not that type of person. Like I would try hard to get people hired.
Yeah, I always figured there was enough pieces of the pie to go around. Shit.
Do you think working as an agent also has given you a better perspective on all that, the things that go on behind the scenes?
Oh yeah, because I know what's going through their minds. I know what they're thinking because I've been there. And I know these guys that, like tonight, for whatever reason, isn't their night. They need to go out there and make this other guy look strong. I know how that makes you feel sometimes.
Yeah.
Because nobody, if you're a kid and you like football, you want to be the quarterback. Nobody, I've never met anybody that said, I want to be the kicker. But that kicker wins games sometimes.
Yeah.
There's been a lot of games been decided by that kicker. It's a very important part of the team. So in the wrestling business, everybody wants to be the world champion, whether they say it or not. You want to be the main guy that the company focuses itself around. But that can really only happen to one person. And, sometimes the roster could be filled with people that are just as talented and can be that guy, but they're not going to be because of timing or whatever. And so just, trying to keep guys in a positive frame of mind, listen, we know how good you are. You're here for a reason. Don't worry about it. Whereas, I've had agents that was like, he's going to whoop your ass. Go do it quick, and just kind of like try to shit on you about things.
Yep.
But I think that speaks more about who that agent is as a person than what the business is, because sometimes you do got to play a role, and that's fine, but do it as best you can, and make sure that person knows that we know you're talented, we know what you can do, but tonight we don't need that.
Yeah.
We need this, and let's get there at some other time.
How about the guy, like, talking about, like, going along with what you're saying here, how about the guy, like, you watch him, you're watching the monitor and he walks through the curtain and you can just look in his eyes and see that I'm doing a job look?
Yeah.
Yeah,
I hate that.
Come on, somebody's got to do the job in every match, and if fucking everyone doing the job came out with that I'm doing a job look on their fucking face, we'd all, nothing would be a surprise. That's for sure.
Simon Gotch did it last night on SmackDown
Did he?
Live.
Oh,
He absolutely did.
Wow.
Yeah.
This kind of goes along as Simon Gotch at the end of that, or towards the end of the Tag Team Turmoil. The Vaudevillains came out and they lasted just a few seconds,
and you could tell that
Gotch, he didn't try to shake the legs or do anything. You could just see it on his face.
The boo boo face. That's what we used to call that.
Yeah.
Oh, the boo boo face. Poor guy.
Sometimes, I will say, sometimes I think that falls on creative too.
Sure.
So, like, you got to give this guy a reason to be happy, because if you're getting your ass kicked all the time, Like at some point, I think realistically, you would walk to, like, even in MMA, you see those guys that are MMA and they know they're gonna get fucked up. Well, I mean, beat up. I don't.
Yeah.
Sorry about
It's
that.
okay.
I'm
Don't worry.
the rules are.
It's all right.
We do
But
that
you know
here.
they're gonna get beat up, and you can see that look. So that falls on creative too, you know, because I mean, you take a guy like Zack Ryder who got super over on his own, and then for whatever reason, at certain times, creative just stopped doing something with him. But he'd always come out all happy, and I would be like, why is this guy so happy? He gets beat up all the time.
That's true.
You know, there needs to be something that happens, you know, a consequence, you know, and a reaction to how things are going in your career and life. And then, you know, you get some wins and now you're happy again. So, you know, I got to give creative a little, they need to not let that be an issue.
Yeah.
Because if a guy just sucks, why is he on the show? There should never be anybody on the show that just get beat up all the time.
Well, we asked for some questions from our fans via Facebook, and we have one from Rick Warner that kind of ties into this. And he points out that the talent are quite different today than they were back in your heyday. So is it difficult for you to relate your experience to the talent of today?
No, it shouldn't be. You know, I mean, because, you know, the story is still the same. You know, we're out there, there's going to be combat. You're going to have, you know, traditionally a good guy and a bad guy, and you want to get the most out of a match, and you want to tell a good story. So, you know, the ideology, I should say, is still the same. You know, talent's different as far as like the athleticism is a little higher, but I think that's the case in all sports. You know, I can't think of a sport where the athletes are just so much worse than they used to be. You know, the only thing close might be the heavyweight division in boxing in America.
Very good, yeah.
But
yeah, it's good.
But that's the only thing. Otherwise, you know, all the athletes, you know, if you watch the Olympics today compared to the Olympics, you know, from 20 years ago, like our athletes just destroy them, you know, and it wouldn't even be that difficult, you know. But but what's missing is star power. That is missing, you know, that charisma that only certain individuals have. You know, that's something that you can't teach, and you either have or you don't. Some people, like, if they have it, they might can amp it up a little bit, but you know, I've seen people that I think have negative charisma.
Yeah,
you know, that
they're like a vacuum.
that kind of suck the energy out of the crowd somehow. So the star power isn't as big as it used to be, but the athleticism is, but the star power definitely isn't.
You watch all the shows, huh, Shane? You do a pretty good job of keeping up. Way better than I do, I'll tell you that. But
what are your thoughts on Lucha Underground?
It's good. You know, I like the weird storytelling that they do. Like some of the backstage stuff, I actually like that a lot more than what happens in the ring. Sometimes they do a lot of fantastic stuff in the ring. I hate that bouncy ass ring.
Yeah.
It just makes me go, okay, this is trampoline stuff. And when there's no danger of anybody getting hurt, you know, I mean, we know what pro wrestling is, but that suspension of disbelief for me really goes away when I see them on a trampoline, you know. And then they do some really cool stuff. Like I remember the first season, I think it was the first season or second, where Angelico ran and he dove off that thing that looked like it was 30 feet in the air, and this big, beautiful dive. And like that would hurt you too.
Yeah.
Like if you dove on another human being and you hit them in the head with your belly, that would hurt you too.
Well,
but nobody sells any damn thing, you know.
Well, look how RVD would sell his own frog splash. He'd hit the guy with the frog splash, and he'd start selling. It'd be nice if other people kind of, you know, took a page out of his book.
Well, Shane, since you still keep up so much with the product, we have another Facebook question from Jim Kelly. He said, what are your thoughts on WWE's cruiserweight division? And would you ever return to maybe compete in the cruiserweight division? We got that one a lot.
The return one might be hard to answer because I'm not getting any younger. And that's a division where athleticism has always been at an all-time high. You know, it's been, you know, it's just very high. So it would depend. You know, right now, you know, I'm with TNA and I'm gonna be with TNA for the, you know, foreseeable future. But I love that division. I love what I did with it, what guys like Sean did for it. So I definitely would be open to somehow going in there and helping them out again. It's something that needs to be highlighted and left alone. You know, that division needs its own identity. And it's just like in MMA, you know, when Conor McGregor, when they talk about his fights, they never emphasize that he's smaller than Cain Velasquez, or they never emphasize that he's smaller than John Jones. It's like never mentioned. He's the world champion. The
That's
only
right.
time they even hardly ever mention the division is when they announce the winner. You know, the weight class isn't a big issue in that. And when you talk about Floyd Mayweather, you talk about one of the greatest boxers of all time. How many people can even tell you what weight division he even fights at? Most
That's a
can't.
really good point.
You know, but like in wrestling, they just overemphasize that they're the smaller guys. Like, yeah, we know that. You don't have to keep saying that. We know the smaller guys. Let them do what they do. Create their own little universe within the universe and see what happens. So, I mean, with that 205 Live show, maybe they'll get the opportunity to really focus on that. But you got to create characters, too. Like I was saying earlier about the star power. Like, if we don't know who you are, it's hard to get behind people when you don't know who they are as a person or as a character.
Yeah. Shane, I was wondering if you ever went through this at all. Was there ever a point when you were like, no, I don't want to be labeled a cruiserweight? Because I know, or a light heavyweight. I went through that, and I was like, no, I don't want that shit. I don't wrestle that style anymore. I wrestle a main event style, and I don't want to. And also, my deal is I never made any money with that fucking belt, you know, compared to the money I made working with the bigger guys. So that made me want to not be labeled as a cruiserweight.
That decision was kind of made for me, you know, because when I was the cruiserweight champion as the Hurricane, you know, they wanted me to do other things, and so that decision was kind of made for me. And then when I had the big run as Gregory Helms, like I was wrestling the United States champion, I was wrestling the world heavyweight champion,
Exactly.
I wrestled the world tag team champions. You know, I was always in these scenarios that were outside of the division anyway. And I remember there was one match I had with The Undertaker when I came back, and it was a standing ovation, and Vince goes, "We got to get that belt off you."
Yeah.
Just telling me that I'm bigger than the division at that particular point.
It's just a reminder.
So that decision was kind of made for me.
Yeah, when you have that belt, it reminds people that you're a small guy.
Yeah.
So that was my
And like
problem.
I would cut promos too. I was trying to cut promos, and I know there was one that I liked, but knowing how Vince is, they might not have liked it. But I was just like, you know, every heavyweight in the back better thank God I'm not 20 pounds heavier, because I'd be coming after your ass too.
Sure.
Like, and I was like, if they're going to constantly, because I was a bigger cruiserweight, you know, much like yourself was.
Yeah.
I know we had one match with Ray was the world heavyweight champion, and so we both made a point to do a face-off.
Yeah.
And so there I am with that little cruiserweight title. There he is. He's much shorter than me. I outweigh him by at least 35 pounds.
Yeah.
He's got the big gold belt, and we're kind of just like, this is ridiculous. You know,
Yeah.
that match right there almost was the death of the division, I think, because it was just kind of redundant at that point.
Well, you mentioned a little while ago that you plan on sticking with Impact Wrestling for a while. Can you give us an update on their future?
Well, I think all the legalities are kind of finally settled down, you know, so we can get back. I think over the past year, our show has been consistently more solid and more entertaining than anything out there. And I know every time I say that, it's like, oh, it's because you were TNA, but, you know, I'll bash something when it's good or when it's bad. You know, well, I don't bash it when it's good, but I'll tell you when it's good and I'll tell you when it's bad. And I watch everything, and I think we're the most unpredictable show, you know. Other than the Goldberg-Brock thing, which was, to me, I loved.
Me too.
Just for the unpredictability factor of it. I popped. You know, I about woke my woman up beside me. You know, I love the unpredictability. I love not being able to predict every single match. You know, I love that. So I love what we're doing. I think the best analogy I can come up with for TNA is that we're a restaurant that has new cooks. We got a new kitchen. We got a new menu. But people can't forget the E. coli breakout that we had a couple years ago that killed about 8 people.
Yeah.
So we're constantly fighting the ghost of TNA's past.
Well,
so I don't know if we need to rebrand.
I was going to say, Shane,
that's fine.
I think that might be the best way to go with it, because I mean the talent is there, Shane. The talent is great, you know.
talent like the Hardys. And actually, we have a question from Nikki Dix. She wants to know, Shane, have there been talks or plans of you feuding with the Hardys in TNA or joining them? She said, with history going back to Omega, it would be a good story, especially if Shane goes into the lake of reincarnation. Is that a possibility?
She needs to watch Total Nonstop Deletion on December the 15th.
Oh.
And I think she'll be pleasantly surprised.
Oh,
and that's
nice.
all I can say.
Nice.
Little scoopage.
Oh, that makes me excited.
Yeah.
Really? You can't any more tidbits?
I just say that the water's pretty cold at this time of year in North Carolina.
All right, that's a pretty good tease, Shane. Thank you.
Have you enjoyed shooting all this stuff on like the Hardy compound? And I know you were in like his Halloween videos, like one of the trick-or-treaters. Like, do you really enjoy that?
How do you know that was me?
I had a similar hurricane mask.
Yeah, I've enjoyed it all, man. I like the way, even when we're at Orlando and like sometimes the crowds are just so burnt out, that you can tell they're exhausted. But we shoot so many things out of sequence, and we'll shoot elements from certain, at the most from 4 different shows we've shot in one day, different elements from different shows, including the pay-per-views and stuff like that. So it's really interesting the way it all comes together. Whereas, with WWE and WCW, we shoot everything sequentially as it happens.
Yeah.
Everything's in order there, but there everything's out of order, and sometimes that's to keep guys from having to work too much in one day, and sometimes because we let a lot of talent take independent bookings too, that maybe they're not there on that Friday, so we got to wait to Saturday to shoot their segments. But it also helps us kind of keep everything away from the spoilers, and that's important. I don't know why people go and watch and go read spoilers. And then they act like, well, I knew that was going to happen. Like, yeah, you read the spoilers, asshole.
Yeah.
It's kind of you did that to yourself. You know what I mean? They actually did something where they made a fake pay-per-view, and this was like my second or third time down there with TNA, and there was this pay-per-view called Genesis where they would keep announcing matches, and it would be like segments. And I got my run sheet, and none of this is on there, but like Borash would go out there, and I remember one time Simon Diamond went out. He's cutting his promo on somebody, and there's going to be this special kind of grudge match at Genesis. And I'm going, when the hell is this? What did I miss? I'm thinking I fell asleep in the agents meeting, and it was just days and days in a row. But the whole thing was they were just having fun to see if it would get reported about this big pay-per-view that was never going to happen anyway.
And I'm guessing it did get reported?
Yeah, of course it did. There's a pay-per-view Genesis that was going to happen, and of course it was like just the most absurd matches of all time, and it never happened.
So there was never actually.
I wouldn't.
There was never actually a Genesis pay-per-view at all?
No.
No shit.
I love that.
See, because I remember a Genesis pay-per-view that never happened.
Yeah. Well, it never was supposed to, apparently.
It was never going to, and that's too. Like when all the reports of the bad morale came out.
Yeah.
I like Dave Meltzer. I like what he does as far as examining the business end of the industry. But I'm on the artist end, And you need both of those. You need people to handle the business, but you need the artists, because we're the ones that got to go out there and make the shit happen at the end of the day.
Right.
And but they kept being these reports about bad morale, and I'm like, no, there's not. We're having a damn blast down there. Well, my sources tell me, I'm like, well, your sources can go eat a dick, because I'm down there. I'm not a source. My name is Shane. I'm telling you exactly who I am. That should be all you need, not a nameless source that's trying to get a push for whatever reason out of a newsletter.
Or for whatever reason
we've been having a blast.
Yeah, for whatever reason they're pushing a certain agenda, and the information they're passing along, is whatever it takes to fit the narrative they're trying to forward. But what are you gonna do anyway? I mean, what good's it gonna do to sit and worry, Shane? I mean, things are going to happen how they're going to happen, and you do the best you can with what you have to work with. I just, the whole morale thing, and I hated this because I love all those guys, and I'm just, hey, look, I just hope that everything works out, because obviously it goes without saying, and it's really cliche at this point, but the more places for everyone to work, the better. And you're right about the show.
I'll tell you what's funny. You're like this, because I was in WCW when it went down.
Yeah.
And so I remember those dying days and those dying months, and I've had this talk with some of the guys. Like, listen, Don't worry about any of that shit. Because I remember I had that talk with myself. Because you would hear all these rumors, and the company would tell us everything in the world, trying to keep us, our morale lifted or whatever, keep our spirits up. And half the time it's fucking nonsense. And I can't worry about it. So I need to go and do what I do. And that's all I did worry about was what Sugar Shane was doing in the ring. I couldn't worry. I'm not in these meetings. I'm not involved. I'm not a stockholder, not a shareholder, none of that shit. So all I am is Sugar Shane. So that's what I worry about. And so, once I had that talk with some of those guys, you could see, like, yeah, he's right. No, fuck it. We can't worry about that. Let's go do what we do. But the last set of tapings, right before we went down there, that's when all the rumors that the WWE was buying them out.
Right.
And that they're getting a library and all of that. And so the Sunday at Bound for Glory pay-per-view, we're going to have a talent meeting. And I was in that talent meeting in WCW when Shane McMahon walked in. And so now we got one down there with all these WWE rumors. I'm like, if Shane McMahon walks in this room again, if I had to go through this shit twice. But then I was like, actually, it worked out for me pretty well last time.
I was just going to say.
Suggestion.
It usually does. It usually does for those that bring something to the table and have talent. As long as they're just not complete assholes to deal with, things usually work out for guys with talent. I've noticed that.
Yeah, I mean, as long as you, like I said, as long as you're not just some raging asshole of a human being, and you got to get those guys out of there. I mean, bad people in the locker room. I'm almost half convinced that's one of the reasons Vince kept me there for so long. I just made people laugh all the time.
I'm sure that was part of it. I'm sure, but Vince, he's not going to keep a guy around just because he makes everyone laugh. I mean, Shane, you were there because you were making him money.
Yeah.
Yeah, you were one of the highest merchandise
I'm sure it was much bigger on his end.
Yep. Oh God, right. Do you remember? Do you still get a merchandising every quarter from them?
Yeah.
And how about the the rundown on what the breakdown is of what they get and what you get? Doesn't that just make you?
Brutal.
Doesn't that just make you grin?
Oh yeah.
I'll have to show you guys one day.
Yes, please.
The first big one I got after I popped, they sent me a big one, and I was like, I thought they made a mistake. I was like, there's no way, because that was like, it was about 3 times my WCW contract in its entirety.
Yeah.
I was like,
Yeah.
I was like, holy shit, what is this? And I was scared to cash it, so I didn't cash it for like one day, and then the second day I said, that's it, I'm going to cash this thing, we'll see what happens. But just thinking about what I made, and, it's, well into the 6 figures, and what they made, I only got a small percentage of what they made. I'm like, wow.
Yeah.
Oh my God. Like those masks, like those little hurricane masks, I sold like 1 million of those, and it was $15 a pop.
And you get like $150, maybe. That's a lot. Maybe way less.
Still $150 times a million.
Yes. Well, yeah. So I mean, probably not even close to $150 if I think about it. I'm not going by your stuff. I'm going by like thinking about some of the stuff I look on mine and see, and I'm just like, oh my God, how do they even break it down into that small a portioning,
Right.
Anyways, whatever. Fuck.
The DVDs with about 50 people in it. You're like, man, I wish there was only 10 people in this DVD.
Yeah. Yeah.
But you
They
said
had to split that
before.
up way too many ways.
You said before that you might have had a world title reign had merch been factored in back then, right? Because this was before.
Maybe not with the Hurricane. I don't think the Hurricane was a guy that would win the world title. If I did, it would be something, flukish, a pop of the night type thing, and then get my ass tore up the very next day. I don't think that character, that character was comic relief, and I was really good at that. So I'm not knocking what that character was, because I think that's really important. Comic relief is a very important element in writing, and I think any good writer would tell you that. But I don't think that's the guy to be the face of the company, to carry the brand. Gregory Helms could have, my heel run with Gregory Helms and the work I was doing. Him, yes, I definitely could have, but not the Hurricane.
Well, you and Sean were both tag champs with Kane, which I think is awesome. And you won it from Lance Storm and Christian with Kane, and Sean beat Jeff Jarrett and Owen Hart with Kane to win the tag belts, which I thought was really cool. I wanted to know any stories you guys have about tagging with Kane.
Let me real quick just butt in. Shane, when you were teaming with Kane, did you have any house show matches? Did you were on the road with him as a team, or just a few times?
Yeah, we went on the road a little bit. We never rode together.
But what I'm getting
house show matches.
What I'm getting at is it's fun working with Kane and being his partner and his opponent, but it's definitely no fucking night off.
Oh no, you're doing all the work.
You damn right. You're the one getting thrown around. You're the one getting your ass kicked, and and you're tagging him, and he comes in and blows the comeback.
It's like you go out with a girl, you pick her up, you whine her, you dine her, you take her back to the hotel. He walks in the room, steals the deal, and leaves.
That's
and
it.
You're just standing there.
That's it. Yep.
How hot is the pyro in the ring when he sets it off? Because just being a fan in the crowd, it is insane. I can't imagine standing in the ring, or have there ever been mishaps where oh shit, my hair caught on fire?
I'll tell you a story. I was under the ring one time, and it was one of those deals where I had to appear out of nowhere. So I was under the ring. They loaded me under there, and they just forgot to tell me that Kane was going to do pyro or whatever. And so I was underneath there, and when it went off on those poles, it blew my head apart. It was so loud, I could feel the concussion.
Oh, the concussion underneath.
Yeah, I mean, it felt like I got punched in the head on all sides.
Oh my God.
You did.
And I was just down there, and honestly, I've never been knocked unconscious, but there was a moment there where I was like, was I asleep? What just happened? Did I get knocked out?
Shane,
I didn't know where the hell I was at.
You did. You described it as getting punched on all sides of your head at the same time. That's exactly what happened to you. You just got punched with sound waves, and literally that's what happened. You got knocked the fuck out by a concussion.
An audio concussion.
Yeah.
Yep.
Wow, man.
And without any warning either. Maybe if there'd have been a warning, I could have covered my ears with my hands or something, but no warning, just boom.
Oh, I would have been
it's
so
thunderous
pissed.
Underneath there.
Oh, were you mad?
No, I came back and I was just, I was like, man, y'all got to tell me like that. And then nobody, it was just one of those things where it slipped everybody, and you could see the look of horror in their face. Like, oh my God, yeah, are you okay? And once they found out I was okay, then Michael Hayes, ha 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 ha.
Right.
It was funny.
Yeah, but I'm sure it was a nervous ha ha ha. It wasn't,
Kind of, yeah. It was, There was like, are you okay? And I was like, I guess I just need to go sit down. So I did whatever I was supposed to do segment-wise, which I can't remember exactly what it was, but.
Well, usually we have a little amnesia. Usually we have a little amnesia when we have a concussion like that. I mean, you had a concussion. That's what happened. From a concussion.
Yeah. Was your equilibrium all messed up? Was your balance all off? And were you just whoa, were you in a haze? Why?
I was just in a haze, and then I didn't have to come out I didn't have to appear right away. I had some time to kind of gather my wits, and that saved me. If I had to come out right after that, I don't know what the hell would have happened.
Wow. Well, Shane, we so appreciate you telling these stories and sharing all this with us today. We're going to make sure that we tell all the fans to watch you on Impact Wrestling on December 15th, or maybe. Is there anywhere else you're going to be popping up, or anything else you want to promote to tell the fans about?
As far as for wrestling, I've taken off to the whole rest of the year. Actually, I started that. We went to Iraq in July, I think. So when I came back from that, I did a seminar for Harley Race, and I was like, I'm gonna just take off for the rest of the year. I need to heal up, and I just bought a farm, so I'm trying to get prepare for the later stages in life after wrestling, but which hopefully won't be soon. But laying a lot of groundwork for that now, so I'm not doing anything. But still watch TNA on Thursday. I will be popping up before Total Nonstop Deletion, but the December 15th show is definitely the show that you don't want to miss if you're a fan at all of Shane Helms. As far as keeping up with me, at Shane Helms.com is universal everything. That's my Instagram, Twitter, Tumblr, even Facebook, and that's because my website is ShaneHelms.com. I work with a podcast with Conan and Disco. Sean, if you haven't done theirs, man, we'd love to have you on there.
Oh, keeping it 100?
Yeah, I'm on there every week. I'm a little segment on there.
Okay, yeah. I was talking to Conan the other day about coming on. Yeah. Hell yeah.
So.
Nice.
All right, and we'll probably be talking to facilitate that, Shane.
Sounds good.
Cool.
But anything I do, I always post. I try to keep people well informed about what I'm doing. So.
Nice. Well, hey Shane, I appreciate you coming on, man. I won't. We could just keep on talking and talking and talking. I mean, is there anything that okay? Before we go, is there anything that I've neglected to bring up that, like, when you decided you want to come on, that you were hoping we talked about?
No, I'm just so open-minded about things. I just kind of like go with the flow. Like I like everything. There's still a ton of other things we can talk about, but we can save that for part 2.
That would be great.
Yeah, buddy.
Yeah, that would be great, because I really hope you.
We didn't touch on the rock stuff. We got a whole lot to talk about still.
So, I mean,
it would be. I'm undefeated against the sexiest man alive. That's hard to say.
Well, hey.
And that in itself is pretty sexy.
What happened with that?
There you go.
The Rock?
Yeah.
I mean, like, it all started with the backstage segment, and it caught someone's eye, and it just got pushed. And
so, hey, we just wrapped it up, but now I'm putting the fucking car into reverse here, because I wasn't in a good place in my life at the time when that happened. So run that by me real quick.
Well, Shane, do you want to tell him?
Shit, I'm sorry, Shane.
Yeah. Oh, no problem, man. It's a very good story for me.
Everyone.
It was just going to be one backstage skit in Toronto, and he was working a program with Booker T that was going to lead to Rock working Steve Austin at Mania.
Right.
And so I just bust up in his locker room, and we just had this really funny back and forth. I tell him how Brandon Frazier beat the Scorpion King, and he tells me that Aquaman's better than me. That's when he called me the Hamburglar.
Right.
And it was just one of those things where, when we were done walking down the hall, like when the boys get into something, that's always a good sign. Everybody's like, that was awesome. That was amazing. And even after that show, Kevin Dunn came and found me, never does this. Never did it before or since in my entire run there. Came to me and was like, that's the funniest pre-tape we've ever done. Wow. And I was like, wow, okay, cool.
Wow, coming from Kevin Dunn. Nice.
Yeah, I don't think he was never mean to me at all, but he never went out of his way. He's probably immune to wrestling.
He doesn't. At this point in his life, he's not known for heaping praise on anyone.
Right. And so later on that night, though, on the show, there's a battle royale, and when me and Rock, finally started throwing punch, because he was giving everybody the smackdown, and when it came to give it to me, I blocked it and started firing back on him, and you could just feel it in the crowd, like they wanted it, they wanted to see it, and then he threw me out, and it's one of those things where you're like, oh man, that went really well. Yeah. I hope they notice it, and I know you've been there before.
Oh yeah.
Where you've done something really good, and it's like, oh, they're going to have to run with this, and then they don't. But so I wasn't sure what they were going to do anything with it ever again. But the next thing you know, week after week, we're doing all these little segments together, and just having fun. I'm giving him lines to say against me, because I know I'm the one getting the rub here. The one line where he took his phone out and said, "Hey, it's nothing." He says he knows you. Like, I gave him that. There was just a couple other ones, but so finally, we're going to face each other in Cleveland. And like that weekend, I had done a bunch of media days. When they would do those media day things to try to kill you.
Yeah.
And so I left my phone in the hotel room, and I went down to get a drink. And as luck would have it, that's when I got the call. So I came back, and there's a voicemail, and I'm like, shit, this is the one I missed. And it was Rock. He was telling me what was going to happen in Cleveland. It's going to be me and you, main event. You're going over, have some ideas, have your boots laced up, that sort of shit.
Yeah.
And saying that was on voicemail. And of course, it's from an unknown number, so I can't even call him back. And I'm just like, is this real? Like, is this Jason Sensation or somebody messing with me? Like, I wasn't sure that this was even him. I was like, so when I get to TV, I don't sell it. I just go up there, hey, talking to him. But when people come up and they're talking to me, what you're doing tonight? And I go, no, not really. I'm not selling anything just in case it is a big rib. Because the boys are mean with them ribs. And I'm not a ribber guy. I don't like that shit. But it ended up being a match, and it was we went out there and did it. It's the only time we ever actually got to have a match together. But I told him that's because once I win, it's a no rematch clause.
I was gonna say you never returned the favor. That's pretty shitty of you.
Yeah, man. No,
fucking bullshit.
If you beat me first, then I get a rematch. If I win first, no rematch.
Wow. I'll be damned.
Contract. No, it was beautiful, man. It was his idea. He was the one that wanted to do it. So I think for whatever reason, it's not like we came up together. You know, I mean, we were buddies, of course, especially after that. But
he wanted to
just
do
liked
it
that
because
character.
he wanted to do it, Shane, because he knew it was great shit. He knew from he was that type, I mean, he's always had a clue, always. I think he had a clue about wrestling coming down the chute, you know, when the day he was born, you know. So, wow, I'm embarrassed that I didn't know that happened.
I think the coolest thing from this whole feud I heard you tell, I think it was on Jericho's podcast, where they were like trying to do another pre-tape for you, and Rock kept messing up the lines, and he gave you a wink like, this is so we could do it live on the air, and they can't cut us off. They're just going to have to let us go. And is that the one where you're like, you're in his locker and he opens it and then he closes it and you appear on the other side, and the whole like, oh, nothing called. Was that promo?
Yeah, well, like I'd been hiding in there the whole time. Yeah. Because I was just going to fly in there. Like normal, I was just going to fly into the scene. I saw those little lockers. I was like, hey, what if I'm hiding in there?
Yeah.
And then we all just popped. But like what he's saying, Sean, is like when we were, that one was going to be pre-taped.
Yeah.
The other ones had been live. And he keeps kind of flubbing his lines a little bit, which he never did before.
Yeah.
You know. And I was like, man, he's never really done this before. And then one time he just turns and gives me that little wink. And I was like, oh, right. He's doing that. So because now the clock's ticking. Like, if we don't get it in this take, we're going to have to do it live. And then he gave me that wink, and I was like, oh, okay. Here we go.
Shane, when is it?
So then it turned from a 2-minute segment to like a 7-minute segment.
Oh, great. But when is it? It's always better live. I've never done a segment like that didn't turn out better live. It just
for him especially because the crowd would chant so much. Like backstage segments, like I can honestly say there's been some of my pre-tape that could have been just as better. I mean, were just as good pre-tape than they were live because I didn't have to rely on any interaction from the crowd. But because the crowd would start, Rocky sucks or whatever they would chant, and he would react to it. Like for him specifically, I think it's just better live all the time. And he's going to go long. You're just going to have to accept that.
That's right.
So is there like a feed that you guys can watch while you're doing those promos? Because he'll always reference, like he could hear the crowd's reaction as it's happening.
No, you can just hear it.
You can just hear it from like where you are?
Yeah.
Wow.
Oh, in the back. Yeah. No, you can hear it for sure.
Oh, okay. Because I always wondered that. Like how it would be like, Rocky doesn't suck, and everyone's like, keeps chanting louder. I'm like, how does he hear that?
No, you can actually hear. They have like a speak. You can hear it through the system, and like sometimes you can hear it.
Just from
because
the crowd
it's
itself.
that loud.
Wow.
So.
Yeah, one of the most indirect compliments I ever got was coming back from a match with Shelton Benjamin. It's like one of those matches where we just really clicked and we had them and they were really behind me. And I came back, Stephanie goes, well, thanks a lot. You kept busting my pre-tape.
Yeah.
Like, what'd I do? Like, I honestly didn't know what she was talking about. She goes, yeah, you were pretty over tonight. You kept busting it. And she kind of gave me that thumbs up. I was like, oh, good. Fuck that pre-tape.
It's a good thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So Christy, do you want to try to wrap this thing up and take it home again?
I'm going to try one more time to shut you boys down. Oh, Shane, thank you again. And apparently we have plenty of juice for a part 2. So I'll be hitting you up again soon.
Thank you so much,
good.
Shane.
Sounds great to me. Thank you guys for everything.
My love to Sebastian. And thank you so much, man. And I hope to see you again soon, man. And if not, we'll definitely we'll try to get you back on here if you can spare the time.
Oh, man, I'll make time for you guys, man. I appreciate everything you've done, man.
Thank you so much, Shane.
Massive respect.
Oh, man, and the feeling's mutual, my friend. Have a great day, bro.
All right, you too, buddy.
Thanks, Shane.
Thanks,
bye-bye.
man.
Cool.
Oh, wow. That was awesome. And we are going to be right back with a little more X-Pac 12360.
Hey guys, Maria Menounos here. We want to let you know about my new show on SiriusXM Stars Channel 109. It's called Conversations with Maria, and it's live Monday through Friday at 10 a.m. Pacific, 1 p.m. Eastern. Go to conversationswithmaria.com for more info. Buzz you later.
Welcome back to X-Pac 12360. We just chatted with Shane the Hurricane Helms.
Yes.
And man, I was most interested in what you were saying about the merchandise and the breakdown and I'm nosy like that. I like that stuff.
Sometimes I don't know, or let me just rephrase that. Some things that just seem trivial to me and no big deal are the things that like you guys want to know more
really
about.
Want to know about.
Right.
And that's funny to me. It's just but it is kind of fascinating to look through one of those if you've never seen it before.
Yeah, I'm gonna hold you to that showing us one.
I will. I might have one with me, actually.
Oh, hey. He's carrying his receipts around, y'all. Well, I'm glad that we got that little tidbit in with The Rock as well at the end there, you know. Always more to talk about with
I
these
figured
guys.
that would have been like a huge thing in the comments, like, why didn't you guys talk about The Rock?
Yeah.
So, like, it was cool to mention it and that he wanted to talk about it. I can't believe, like, you were like, no, what? What are we talking about?
Well, here's the thing. Try to remember that there was a dark period in my life for a few years, and it was right around that time.
Okay.
So
That
I
makes
think
sense.
wrestling was something that I wasn't paying attention to.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
Well, that's why we're here.
And we do also get a lot of positive feedback from the fans, not just what we don't ask. And we love to hear from all of you. And you guys can always keep up with me on Twitter, Instagram, and Snapchat at Christy Reports. And please also follow the show on Instagram at X-Pac12360. I just gave Sean access to that, so he's going to be posting some stuff there. It's about to get really good. And give us a like at Facebook.com/X-Pac12360 show. There's a lot of links. That's where you can post your questions for next week's guest, Bob Hawley. And where can they follow you at, Jimbo?
You can follow me on Twitter at Jimbo in the Booth. Tomorrow is Thanksgiving, so I wanted to take this time to give some thanks to Kevin and Maria for allowing us here at AfterBuzz to follow our dreams and giving us the opportunities to do so. I want to thank all the fans and listeners that support the X-Pac 12360 podcast, among all the other podcasts and shows at AfterBuzz. Thank you for your tweets and your questions and always being involved with the show. Thanks to all the staff here at AfterBuzz that do everything behind the scenes. The Phils, Marissas, Stevens, Briannas, and all of them. Big thanks to Mark in the booth for handling all our wrestling stuff behind the scenes.
I love you guys.
Huge thanks to Christy for staying up late and doing lots of research and always making sure she pulls quotes and works very hard on this show among all her other shows. And thank you to Sean for giving me the chance as a fan to have this opportunity to become your friend. I'm truly grateful and thankful.
Cool.
I really appreciate it.
Wow.
I told you at the beginning we were going to give you compliments.
Well, I was going to say exactly what Jimbo just said. I was going to thank everybody in that order and all that. No, I'm just kidding. I ditto to everything you just said except for the part where I thank myself. Thank you both so much, and thank you, Mark, in the booth. This has so far been an amazing experience for me. I'm having a great time doing this. I hope you all are too.
Very, very much so.
And I hope everyone is having a good time listening and watching at home. Appreciate it. Happy Thanksgiving, everybody. Love you all.
And we can't wait to do it again next week, so we'll see you then. Bye-bye.
From executive producers Maria Menounos, Phil Svitek, Kevin Undergaro, show producer Jimbo Frank, managing editor of AfterBuzz Wrestling Christy Olson, and managing producer of AfterBuzz Wrestling Mark Bidonica, and the entire X-Pac 12360 staff, we would like to thank you for tuning in. Feel free to like us on Facebook, rate and comment on iTunes and YouTube, follow X-Pac on Twitter at TheRealXpac, and email us at xpac12360show@gmail.com. This has been a presentation of the AfterBuzz TV Network. Buzz you later!